Members, if we are all happy and returned, we shall start the informal discussion relating to local plan sites. So for those who did not have the pleasure of attending P&R last night, a quick update on why we're doing this bit of the exercise. So when we last met, we recommended very narrowly strategic sites, strategic plan 6, a very large strategic site in the east of the borough, and we consequently used the hierarchy of settlements to pick these smaller sites to fill out the rest of our numerical allocation. Last night at P&R, the strategic site allocation was changed to a large site in the east and the west, and so though the remainder of the policy is that we use this hierarchy settlement to allocate the small sites again, it was felt by members that there would be some benefit in re-going through the list and checking if there were some that had been initially discounted or included that in the light of a different strategic site allocation might now make either more or less sense. So I will hand over to Stuart for the running of the session, but our broad theory was if members had particular spots on the healer they wanted to raise, either as previously included that should now be excluded or the other way round, please do that. If that doesn't lead us anywhere fruitful, we may have to return to the lengthy spreadsheet approach of last time, but I would rather avoid that if we can. But I will let Stuart introduce first and then come to members.
Okay, so I've just shared my screen with you, and this is the spreadsheet that we went through at the working group on the 22nd of January, which was Appendix 4 in the agenda pack. I've amended it slightly now to show the sites that were chosen by the working group back in January against growth option 6. So as the chair's just alluded to, we were seeking to find non-strategic sites to meet the residual need after the expectations of the growth strategy. So for the discussions back in January, we were looking for 4,000 dwellings on the non-strategic sites. I put a new column in there as well now to reflect growth option 4, which has a larger expectation from growth from strategic sites because it's proposing a proportion in the east and a proportion in the west. As a result of that, the residual need actually comes down to 3,000 dwellings that would need to be found from non-strategic sites. So I'm not sure if members want to discuss specific sites they want to take out or put in, or whether they want to go through and reconfirm all the sites that are agreed back in December time with amendments. So to help the reader of that spreadsheet, the sites that were agreed are highlighted in green there, so you can see it's got a yes against it. So it could be a decision that we go through and just reconfirm those yeses, but if members are of a different opinion, they can just select specific sites that they want to change. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. Are there any questions on approach before we start on actual sites? Did you have one, Councillor MacDonald, and then quite a lot of questions on approach? We'll start with Councillor MacDonald.
Yeah, the only question I've got is that obviously there are still odd individual sites for one property. Is that included, or obviously you don't know, do you? Really? I'm thinking about somebody building in their garden or something, and that gives us another one for our total.
They're included. They're included in our windfall. So we have a percentage calculation called windfall that covers off exactly that circumstance. No worries. Councillor Whiting.
Thanks, Chair. It's just a question about the residual need. Just how close to the wire is that residual need? Is there a 5% buffer either way built into that, so that we understand how close we need to be to that?
Thank you. So that residual need is based on the table that was in the January report. So that has a 5% buffer to it. So that residual figure has the 5% buffer. I think just to reiterate to members, though, to be careful in terms of looking at sites, because we also have to, as I've discussed previously, demonstrate a 5-year supply at examination and at the point of adoption. Whereas at this stage, because we haven't formally selected the sites, I'm still unable to formally approach the site promoters to start developing the evidence. I have had a sort of high-level look to see what sites most likely could be delivered in a 5-year supply as the point of plan making. So that's just something for members to be aware of. But yes, as you said, the residual need there has got a 5% buffer to it already. But as we previously discussed in other meetings, Queenborough and Rushden as an example, where our expectations on those sites may come down, and that would eat into that 5% buffer. So I really would recommend to members that they aim for at least the residual need figure or higher as part of this process. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Baldock, you had a question.
Well, there was a lot of concern last time at the amount of housing we were putting in Upchurch, and I think that this is now an opportunity to remove those the huge amount of housing we would put on Upchurch, especially given that it's a low tier settlement and that we are putting a load of houses now in Bobbing, which is a close by parish. So I would say that those sites we ought to look at taking out.
Not a question on process, but we will come back to that when we do the sites. Were there any other questions on process?
It is on process because
It's not on process.
it's
It's on the
whether or not we
sites.
go through every site one by one, or we look at specific sites. If you want to go through one by one, fine. Or did you want to just look at specific sites and have those looked at?
Are you proposing we just do specific sites and they're your proposals for the
That's my starting point. Yeah.
Fine. I'm content with that approach. Councillor Harrison, you had a question.
Yeah, my approach would be let's start at the beginning rather than keep dotting here, there and everywhere. Yes, number 1, Smith Street, Tenham, yes. Any no's, right. You can do it very, very quickly. Otherwise, you're dotting around all over the show.
The alternate view. Councillor Gould, then I'll come back to you.
Doing it by area is a good idea. You know, if we which is I think the approach we took last time was trying to look at grouped sites, as Councillor Baldock suggested. Is that spreadsheet available on any of the agendas, or what's the closest to it? Just for looking at it on the
appendix over the 22nd of January.
right, that one.
It
Right.
hasn't got those 2 things in it, but it's got the sites listed.
Okay, so the one that came to PNR yesterday is not that, is that right?
Oh,
Just difficult to read it at that distance.
Yes, so the sites we didn't select on the 22nd of January did not come to P&R. So the correct the matching spreadsheet without those final 2 columns is the 22nd of January, Appendix 4, which there is a paper copy. I'm certainly holding paper. There's a paper copy here.
Oh.
There are a couple around. Councillor Baldock's got one in front of him there as well.
have you got a spare one? There was a link in what Kelly sent round.
Yeah, and an email was sent round earlier today.
Yeah, a spare one.
Well, it's the only one there is here, actually. It's just that it's...
So I've got
What's on the table now?
That's the minutes from
That's
that's the last set of agendas. Any other questions on process? Councillor Bonney, you raised your hand.
Yeah, I think last time what we to help out, we went through and just said we'd wholesale accept brownfield. So I don't think that changes. Oh, hold on.
Councillor Bonney.
I had concerns about the classic cinema. I think that allocating that, if we're going to allocate it just because it's brownfield site, we ought to be, I think, a little bit more careful on that one because it's right in the town centre. It's a historic facade. I think we should be making that mixed use rather than purely residential. You might have residential on top of something, but I think we still need to have a community use for that. So I'm concerned about how we put that in.
Councillor Speed.
Thank you. Just so I'm clear, if the residual need's gone down from 4,000 to 3,000, does that mean we, on the list as it currently stands, we have enough sites, or are we looking to add more in, or do we have scope to take some out? I'm not clear on that.
So if I can come in at this point, based on the minutes of the 22nd of January meeting, there is 2 sites in there for Highstead, which contribute 2,000 dwellings to the selection of sites against growth option 6. So if the appetite is to remove those two now, which seems to be alluded to in previous discussions, then the balance of the sites already selected would be 3,222. So it would be just above the residual need against growth option 4. However, if they were taken out and growth option 6 was carried at full council, then members would need to tonight find about 800 dwellings on other sites to beef up the option 6 selection.
Is that clear? So I'll try again. So we are effectively doing what we said we weren't going to do and run parallel local plan systems to get two options to full council. And therefore, if we want to have Highstead removed from both of them, we either need to find we can remove some from our previous selection and go with strategic option 4, or we can add 800 to our previous selection, which will allow option 6 to meet those numbers. So those are the choices before us. But the question we were asked from P&R was to look at the sites in relation to option 4. But we should be mindful that if we wanted to remove Highstead from option 6, we should be looking at those sites we did not previously allocate and adding them in as viable for that one as well. Councillor Bonney.
Can I just clarify what Queenborough and Rushenden is in at? Is it the current plan allocation? I just want to check. Yeah, that's fine.
I think we should stick with that.
Yeah, I think we should stick with that. And actually, I think it should be increased, because what was said at our committee, Regen and Property, was they were looking at larger properties, which is inconsistent with what we actually require. So, you know, I know they will come up with a list of excuses as to why it went from 2,000 to 1,000. But I do think, given its location, its ability to adapt to the infrastructure, that we should be pushing to max out what can be achieved at that site for the benefit of the wider island community and to take the pressure off elsewhere. And if that means we can get another 500, even if it's a midway between the 2,000 and the 1,100, then that really does help.
Noted. So I think we need to make a decision on our approach, because we have had both proposals put forward, and to clarify, the nature of the spreadsheet is it is in the settlement hierarchy order, because that is how we are allocating them. So Sittingbourne is first, the smaller towns are second, and the rural areas are after them. So going through them in order by its nature is going through them by area, but it does mean we can't hop between specific areas as members wish. There are 4 new sites, correct?
Do we want to look at them first? Because they're not in the table.
Well, that's a separate part of the proposal, but I guess let's decide this proposal first, and then we can handle some of the broad changes, as we discussed, brownfield and those 4 new sites as standalone options. So just on the main table, do we want to go through line by line as before, and therefore go kind of in settlement order as we do? So those in favour of going through line by line as previously? Anyone against? Any abstentions? So that is the approach we will take. We have previously decided, and in achieving our allocation previously, we decided to include all the brownfield sites listed. Is that still the desire of the committee? Noting Councillor Baldock's singular exception, which is there any dissent from Councillor Baldock's exception, or any additions to that list of exceptions? I saw Councillor Harrison first, then Councillor Whiting.
I was just going to say, Chair, that if you don't include the brownfield sites, then it gives people the opportunity to say, well, you didn't include those, so I'm going to suggest a greenfield one. you know, my opinion, I'm on the floor. My opinion is, if you don't build out that 1.1 million homes that you've already got permission for within the next 6 months to 12 months, I'm going to take your planning permission back off you. That would be my view.
Would that we could, Councillor Harrison, but Councillor Whiting.
I would vote to keep all the brown sites. I take there may be individual issues with individual sites, and that may come out of the examination or come out at the point at which somebody puts a planning application in. But I think for the purpose of this exercise, we should just stay with it and keep them in.
Understood. I mean, I think I have some sympathy for that view that actually Councillor Baldock is not saying it's not suitable for development, just that it would need careful attention and care, and so it is perfectly reasonable to allocate it, and we may not achieve the density we're suggesting, but we might do with the right developer and the right proposal. We can't be certain on that either way. So I'm hearing no dissent from our initial plan to include all brownfield sites as standard. So we're agreed to maintain that approach. So moving on, then we have the new sites which are listed on. What's the best way of showing those, Stuart?
So move around to the new sites from the densification study, or
Are those the ones you're referring to?
No. So the densification study identified 42 sites with a potential range of 350 to just over 400 dwellings. But the purpose of the officer SIF was to identify if there were any that were suitable for the HELA. And due to the small size of some of the sites, existing policy constraints, and vibrant existing uses, the SIF found that only four sites would be suitable for the HELA process. So at this stage, they haven't been formally assessed as part of the HELA, so it could still be that they may not be suitable at this stage. So I suggest to members not to put those in until we've completed that process.
How many were they added up to?
So the densities in there were based on the consultant's work rather than the HELA approach, and it had a range of 38 to 53 dwellings
in total.
Sites, yeah, in total.
Councillor Bond.
Can I just check that the development we've got on the one-way system is included in there, or is that in the grants for approval? The one that we are developing for build
has planning permission.
Yeah,
so there's
yeah.
an extant planning
Yes,
permission
that's
in
fine.
the first bit of the numbers.
Okay, that's all right. Just checking.
That works us down. Well, can we? It's on the list, isn't it? So let's get to it when we get to it. And I'm happy to discuss each either individually as a yes and no, or a yes but or no but as we go. I'll just if you're happy, we can begin the charade that we went through last time. Go again. Yeah. Well, yeah. Noting none of us are happy, but
Perhaps we don't have a detailed description of every site as we go through. Just it's HELA name and number. And,
are members content with that approach? HELA number and location. You hopefully have all got a copy in front of you in one way or another, and Stuart will tell us if we did or didn't previously, and then we can decide if we're still content. So we will, if we're all content, begin.
Okay, so as I stated, we're going to work them through them in assessment order. So the first batch are within the assessment area of Sittingbourne. So the first one that's in the list is Sheila 270, which is land at Tong Road, and that was chosen by the committee the working group back on the 22nd of January. Yeah.
Any dissent from no change? We leave it in.
Okay, the next one, land at Pheasant Farm, actually has a resolution to grant and is waiting completion of Section 106. So it hasn't been taken out the HELA at this stage in case the Section 106 falls away. But at this stage, it's not recommended for selection because it's counted within our extant supply.
Understood, no change. Thank you.
And that's the same for the next one, Sheila 273. Then we come on to Smead Dean Works, Sheila 370. At the moment, it's more suitable for employment, but members could choose an alternative approach, but the recommendation is to keep it for employment.
Any dissent from that view? We did not previously allocate it. No, so we'll leave it as an employment site.
The next one is Sheila 404, land at Sheppey Way. This was not chosen by the working group in January.
Any dissent from that? We'd like to add in the land at Sheppey Way this time. No, I'm seeing no indication, so we'll leave as is.
Okay, the next one is Sheila 405, land at Sheppey Way and Quinton Road for 56 dwellings. And again, this one was not chosen.
Any dissent? Nothing seen. Moving on.
The next one is Sheila 413, land north of Keycoa Hill for 357 dwellings. Again, this one was not chosen.
Any dissent? No. Carrying on.
So the next two are the two Highstead parcels that were put in based on the minutes from the last meeting. So the first one is the northern parcel for 250 dwellings.
I've got Staplehurst Road.
Yeah, Staplehurst Road has actually got planning consent now, so I've had to take it out of the list. We'll come to that, it's further down the list.
We're using a different one to Appendix 4.
So what I've had to do is put, because the two Highstead ones were not in the original appendix, they were amendments to the list. I've put them in now, so it's clear where they would sit in the settlement hierarchy. And as you go further down, you've then got Staplehurst Road and Bell House and the other ones, if that makes sense.
Well, that's a decision we're making now. Is I'm not seeing any dissent from that approach. We should remove Highstead.
As long as we fully understand what the difficulty is, if there is a difficulty in the numbers, which is what we discussed last night, or the likely output from the 5-year land.
So what are the numbers of the two Highsteads we're proposing to remove?
So it's 2,000 across the two parcels at Highstead. So with the growth option 4, you have a strategic site in the west, so it makes up some of the shortfall, which is why you get that residual need of 3,000. However, my word of caution now is against growth option 6. By taking those 2,000 out, you'll be about 800 short against that residual need target of 4,000 dwellings.
Understood. So if people want the option of growth option 6 to remain on the table, we will have to find additional things as we go through tonight, which we may do. Councillor Baldock.
What we actually said at that meeting was that we acknowledged there was a chance we might lose the appeal, but that would come forward but any of that would come forward in the latter stage of any plan, and that we would, because we didn't want to over allocate, which is what we're effectively doing by giving permissions, because we didn't want to over allocate, we were looking at inserting the higher numbers after the Reg 19, if it came back in the inspector's notes, or it was a problem in the Reg 19, we could then, as we have done in the past, make up the gap in the knowledge that Highstead had failed, and pick those numbers in recognition of what was in the Reg 19. So there was no suggestion that we put Highstead in. It was quite clear that what we were going for was to put it forward, see what the response on the Reg 19 was, and the inspector's first, the inquiry notes, and look to allocate, to make up the number after the event of Highstead. Now, that was what the approach that we agreed. And I think that's the approach that we should be taking. What we don't want to do, and this was made quite clear at the PTP, is to allocate the full amount, to then find that if we lose Highstead, we have over-allocated by about 2,500 on top of an already unacceptable amount, and a burdened Swale with even more development than we need to. That was what we agreed last time. And that isn't what got put in the minutes. That isn't what got carried forward in the report to P&R. There was no way this working group had agreed to include in the allocations Highstead in any form. And I think that's what we need. That is the approach we need to return to. On this basis, yep, we could potentially be 800 short. That eats into the buffer, but it means that after the Reg 19, we can still come back and allocate houses if we find out that Highstead has been won. And that's what I think we should do.
So just to be, well, we've established I disagree. I think I have to strongly disagree that it was clear, because the fact that we don't agree means it clearly wasn't. But what it sounds to me like you are proposing is we remove Highstead from the site allocations completely, but that we note the number possibility and we have that in our back pocket to consider post Regulation 19. So you're not disputing that it shouldn't be on either of these lists.
No, it shouldn't be on the list.
Right.
Because what we wouldn't want to do is allocate, if we win Highstead, we wouldn't want to put it back in as an allocation. We would then have to consider where we find the other 800, which would probably have come through in other applications by then. But.
So I've got Councillor Gould, then Councillor Bonnet.
So does that mean, on this basis, we're going into an inspection? If the Highstead isn't known by the time of the inspection, we're going to the inspection. You know, if we go for option 6, 800 short. If we go for option 4, we're about okay.
So, as Councillor Baldock stated, if growth option 6 ends up 800 short, that's pretty much the 5% buffer gone. So, for example, you would then not be able to take any other sites out because you'd then be not meeting your local housing need target, and thus your plan would not be being positively prepared and so forth. There are other cautions as well, as discussed already in this meeting, Queenborough and Rushendon. If they submit evidence at Reg 19 examination that goes against what is the adopted policy for those sites, then we would be starting to fall short. So there is real danger here of not finding those additional 800 with removal of these two Highsteads. The other point to make, though, in the case where the Secretary of State does allow the schemes, they will become consented applications, and they would go into our consented supply, and then they would be counted towards our need. But if it wasn't allowed by the Secretary of State, then you have that shortfall that I've just set out for you.
Understood. Councillor Whiting.
Just one question on that, because I am probably being very dense here, but we've only got 750 here against Highstead South, when I thought that was 7,000, 6,000, 7,000. And so I thought we can get within the 20-year period.
That was our working theory. Yeah. But sorry, Councillor Bonnie, you had a question as well. I missed you.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And actually it fits into what you've just picked up, Councillor Whiting, is that in Swale we have a history of failing to deliver on large sites. That is absolutely clear. So every single one of our large sites has failed to deliver. Queenborough and Rushendon, North East Sittingbourne has failed to deliver the infrastructure that goes with it. Borden, all of them. Stones Farm. And Stones Farm was one that came in, just for those that weren't around at the time, came in at the beginning of the inquiry into the local plan because Swale was short and it had to find additional sites, although my scepticism says that was always the plan. And Borden. And I do remember sitting across from the inspector talking about those two specific sites and why they came in as exceptions at that time. But they do come in, has come in before. But I think the caution here is that where you've got large scale sites is about working out what they would deliver in your plan period. They obviously very rarely contribute to your 5-year supply. And that's the problem, because you end up putting in large sites and actually it's the small ones that actually get built out and delivered. And they often get built out and delivered in the areas where it's more profitable. It's just a fact. That's the economics of it.
Absolutely agree. So just to be clear for Stuart's spreadsheet, we are removing the Highstead allocations from both, and we will see where the numbers take us to Councillor Baldock's theory at the end. So any further questions or comments on Highstead? No, then moving on down the spreadsheet, Stuart.
Okay, so the next one, Sheila 251, 152 Staplehurst Road, that's consented now, so it goes into our extant supply, so it's not lost, but we can't have it as an allocation anymore. Moving on to Sheila 258, Bell House, that was a brownfield site, so that was recommended.
I thought there was a higher figure than 120 for that.
So there was a consented plan application that went beyond that to 167. However, that was never fully implemented, and the site promoters have taken a step back from that scheme. So the fallback position is what it was allocated for in the current local plan, which is 120.
Can we not allocate what we think is appropriate, which may be 150, which is less than the 167, but we've got planning permission. But if we're given planning permission for 167, I think it's reasonable to expect that we get at least 150 out of it.
I mean, if members feel that the plan application approach was realistic, then we could look for a higher figure. But the 120 has what's already been through a local plan examination found sound. So I think at this stage it would be more appropriate for members to stick with 120.
Understood. Councillor Bonney?
So that site is shall we say, frustrating because it's sat there idle for so long. And it did have, as part of it, quite a large chunk of it allocated for a doctor's surgery, which clearly is never going to happen now. That's completely fallen out of bed. So that space would then become available for residential or other use. And so it was a sort of a flat development with that GP surgery and it was supposed to be a super large one. And I remember meeting actually the applicants, I should declare, and it was just around in between lockdowns with one of our senior officers who had completely unrealistic expectations of what the NHS would pay in rent for that. And I said it wouldn't get off the ground unless they were realistic. So I think we've got owners, promoters who have demonstrated their inability to develop the site in a timely fashion and had unrealistic expectations. So I would caution anything that they have come up with to date because they have failed to deliver on the site. And I think we need to take a fairly robust approach, but I think we can safely say we've got planning on the site for a certain number and we know that a certain element of it has dropped away now.
So I've got a suggestion to increase it from 120 to 150, but at least Councillor Whiting dissented from that view. Any different? Anybody else agree or disagree with that proposal? See some heads shaking, so I think we should probably vote. So just to be really clear, we are on Sheila 258 Bell House, Bell Road. The allocation that has been tested in the local plan is 120. The proposal is to increase to 150. All those in favour of that? All those against? We will not do that then. Thank you very much. Stuart, moving on.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So moving on to Sheila 262. This is a brownfield site that was put into the supply at the last meeting. Next one is a brownfield of the same nature, Sheila 267. And the next one is another brownfield site, Sheila 332, 10 to 14 High Street. The next one is the Sheila 351, the classic cinema. It was proposed for 50 units at the last meeting.
If option 4 is adopted, then I would propose we take this one out, because I think 50 is way too high if you're going to preserve it. Option 4 is, of course, the one where we've got more leeway.
But we have discussed, we think it should be in the HELA as a employment and possible accommodation sites. So would we be more comfortable just lowering the number?
I think 50 is way too high. What you'd get in there if it was a
I'm struggling to
multi-use.
picture 50, but I'm not a
Yeah,
architect, clearly.
I'd be happy with 20. I think that's reasonable given what we're expecting to get out of other sites.
So to be clear, we have a proposal on 351, the Classic Cinema, High Street, Sittingbourne. Was allocated at 50, but there are some concerns about the heritage aspect and the deliverability of that. So we're proposing to lower to 20. Is there any dissent from that proposal? Councillor Harris.
Could we have a professional opinion on this, please?
Very wise.
So the Classic Cinema is a very large structure. It is becoming somewhat dilapidated now, as it hasn't been in active use for a number of years in terms of the frontage. There is provision within national policy that you can allow some development to help enable or protect a listed building and so forth. So I think the chance of getting that building up to a good use again, we need to be looking for a decent amount of residential on it, not a low figure. I think 50 may be a good starting point for the purpose of plan drafting. It's the money game. You need to make sure there's enough viable development going on the site to enable the whole of the building to be preserved effectively.
Understood. So, Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Chairman. To the best of my knowledge, that building, or no part of it, including the facade, is listed. I stand to be corrected, but as far as I'm aware, it's not a listed building in any way, shape, or form. And I doubt that anyone in today's sort of financial constraints would want to try and convert that building into flats. My view is the only viable way that would ever come forward is as a complete demolition and rebuild as a specific block, because that is a very, very large building in there. It's not well structured, and you need an awful lot of steel and concrete in there to convert it. So
It is locally listed.
I mean, whilst it's getting dilapidated, and that's not what we want to see, I think you've got to be wary of anyone coming forward to actually convert that building, whether it be 20 flats, 50 flats, or whatever, or even mixed use.
Absolutely noted. And Councillor Baldock correctly pointed out it's on our local heritage list, isn't it? So it is locally listed, but correct, not a listed building nationally. Councillor Whiting.
Yeah, I mean, if we put in 20, then if they come forward with a plan for 50, then do we take that as a windfall? And if we put in 50 and they only give us 20, then at that point we're short. So I think it's sort of 6 of one and half of the other. I'm more inclined to go for 20. Which may encourage more people to come forward to look to develop it. I don't know.
Well, it seems we have a difference of opinion, so we should vote on it, as we've approached previously. So currently in at 50, proposal is to reduce to 20. Sorry, Councillor Baldock, are you voting or are you asking a question? No, that's fine. You can pre-vote. Reduce to 20. All those in favour of that approach? 20. All those against? Any abstentions? I don't know well enough, but that has not passed. So we will leave as we are for the moment and move on. Stuart?
Thank you. The next one is the old pumping station, Sheila 378. So it was a new site, but I don't have a record of it being chosen at the last meeting. It's only for 7 dwellings, though.
So, old pumping station, brownfield site that we didn't seem to allocate last time for 7 dwellings. Any difference of opinion or view, Councillor Bonney?
I know exactly where it is. It's a bit of a funny location, but I mean, if you think it works, it works. It's in a town centre location. It's a bit of a dip down there.
Basements.
Councillor Gould?
They're in the water table.
Sorry, no, my memory's come back to me now. I think that site's actually got planning consent now. That's why it's not on the list. My apologies on that.
Well, I'm sure they will enjoy their dip-based homes, their new residents. We shall move on then.
Okay, the next one's Sheila 396, St Michael's House and Lang's Bar. So that was agreed for 9 dwellings.
I thought we said 9 dwellings was ridiculously low for St Michael's House, but we wanted that increased. Given that you reckon 50 on the classic cinema, that could at least be 50, if not more. It's a large site.
Is that comment on the internal logic, and anyone disagree with that approach?
I mean, the reason why it's come out at 9 dwellings is the site area's been measured at 0.15 hectares, which is pretty low, and based on the density approach of the Heller, that would come out at 9 dwellings.
St Michael's House is an office block, and it's quite a large office block. So something's wrong there. Either the site measurement. It's the office block with the bar on the corner there.
Centre.
Yeah, the old job centre, as we remember it as.
Which is already 2 stories.
Any other opinions, differing opinions on that? I'm not an expert.
I've been in the building a number of times, and it would strike me that it's a perfect one for development.
Yeah.
Under just turning office blocks into flats.
Yeah.
And you'd get more than 9, but I'll bow to Stuart.
I think the issue with the site at the moment is it does have a prior notification for conversion from office to residential, but that's not been implemented. So it's a decision whether or not we keep it in the plan for complete redevelopment of the site.
I'm going to propose 50.
Because we
could accommodate it.
I mean, we've got the town centre policy, which is to obviously increase the density and the number of residential units within the town centre, obviously, to make the most of our town centres. I think this would be an ideal site for wholesale redevelopment, and as you say, a much higher number.
Well, I've got Councillor Clark, but Elise go first, if that's all right, Councillor Clark. Oh, no, you're all right.
Is it the whole site though? If the measurement that we've got on this list is, I don't know how big 0.15 hectares is, it might be massive, but it's so is it the whole site or is it just part of it? So I just don't want us to overestimate something that if
I think that
the classic cinema, according to this, it's 0.15 hectares, and the classic cinema is 0.11.
Yeah.
So if we're doing a density calculation on hectares, then this should come out very similar to the cinema.
Stuart, could you maybe give us some help here? Yeah. I mean, if you look on Google Street View, you'll see what we mean.
I've actually been out to visit this site, so I have walked around it. Yeah, I think the difference with the classic cinemas, we would be looking to convert the existing building for flats as a policy approach. So you would be seeking much higher. Whereas I think if you were to redevelop St Michael's House, the question is what type of dwellings would you get on there? I'm not sure if it would be outright suited for a high density flatted development beyond the scale of what's already there. Because if you actually look at it's got roads to one side, it's got a sort of low level quick fit, is it, to one side as well, and then like a pub on the other side. So the actual immediate sort of surrounding built environment is actually quite low scale. So I think that's why we probably would be looking for a lower figure for redevelopment there.
Councillors Baldock?
I mean, we have already agreed that we want to see that sort of thing happen in St Michael's. We are setting the parameters of what we expect, and it's closeness to the station. Tricky to get much closer. It's closeness to all the wonders of a town centre. You wouldn't need, parking. Given the arguments we've had on other applications for parking, would be minimal. There's even a bus service that runs during the day across the road from it. I think 50 is a sensible approach because we are setting what we want in this.
I've got Councillor Clark, and then we can move to a vote on it.
Thank you, Chairman. I actually find myself agreeing with Councillor Baldock on this one for once. Yeah, because it's quite a large building in itself, which, as I understand, isn't looking to be converted rather than demolished and the whole site redeveloped. And you've not only got the building there, you've got a fair chunk of land behind it between that and the railway car park. So I would have said, it's maybe not 50. That might be a little bit too dense. But as has been said, you've got the railway station right there. You've got the bus station right opposite, and it's not just the fact that you've got a low level quick fit one side and the pub the other side, which possibly might be closing at some point soon. But right opposite, you've got the Travel Lodge, you've got the Light Cinema, and so on and so forth. So it's not as if it's in a low level developed area. So I would have said, yes, it is right for redevelopment, and I don't know, 30 to 50. I don't know whether we can put a from and to on it, but it certainly could be much more dense than 9 developments, nine dwellings.
I think that our difference of opinion is that Stuart is saying the maths is based on flattening and building 9 presumably houses, not flats, and that's what you could deliver on that site on that basis. And the view of this committee is that we don't think that's what we should do. We should convert to flats. So that's where the difference has arisen, and we will vote on that. But Councillor Harrison, just before we do.
Thank you, Chair, because it took me a while to see it. I've been in there. And I've now seen it, and I don't think you get 50 flats there, not unless you want a bit, a London high rise. But if it's flats, it would be more than 9. If it's houses, it depends what we're looking for and what we would want to put in for. But if we're looking at flatted, there's no way we'd have 50 on that site. I'd go as far as 30 max.
Councillor Whiting.
Can I don't know if we got a proposal. I'd like make the proposal that the steer is that we think the site is suitable for flats and not houses, and then we delegate to Stuart to put the right number in there once he's done the sums about how many flats he thinks he can get on there, because it's going to be more than 9. Hopefully, and I would have said at least double that. I know 50 is a bit high, but I don't know the numbers. But I think as a matter of policy, we should be building flats there, not houses. And then we need to work out how many flats you can likely get on it.
Yeah, I think probably
I don't know.
About 20 flats would be achievable. So just over double what that figure is.
So that's the officer recommendation is 20 flats would be deliverable. But
I'm still trying to see the difference between getting 50 on the classic cinema, which is a smaller site, and getting 50 here, which is a bigger site. It is bigger. So why can we get 50 on the cinema and not 50 here?
As I set out, the cinema scheme would be a conversion of a very large building, flats, whereas this would be redevelopment.
So we have we have a whole range of proposals on the floor. We'll take them in the order they've come, which is 50, and then we've discussed 30 and the officer recommendation of 20. But let's start with 50. So the proposal is to increase this allocation to 50 and make clear our desire that it be flats. Those in favour of 50? Those against? Any abstentions? Just me. And Councillor Gould. That has not passed. Those in favour of 30? Any against? Any abstentions? Again, just me. So we are as a committee pushing for 30, Stuart, if you wouldn't mind, very kindly. So thank you very much. And that brings us to the end of Sittingbourne's run. We've gone up, so that's good work, team. So on to the next.
So moving on then to Sheila 081. This is Lady Dane Farm Buildings for 25 dwellings, and that was chosen by the working group in January.
Any difference of opinion? Did pick it last time. Any dissent from that view? Did.
The next one is Sheila 111. That's the land at Graveney Road, east of Faversham, and that's for 177 dwellings.
Which we again did pick last time. Any dissent from that view?
No, our question about delivering the 5 year, we're suggesting we're going to get 50% of those within 5 years. Is that backed up by something the developers said? Because it seems quite high.
It's a greenfield site, and if it was to come forward, then you'd expect a good contribution in a 5-year supply. As I say, at the moment, these figures are just an initial officer feel for what a site could do. We haven't got the evidence yet because we haven't formally selected any sites for testing.
It does back directly onto an existing development that was completed a year or so ago, so it's not, wouldn't be difficult to access. Moving on, sorry, we've left as
And the next one was a strategic site, so it wasn't discussed at the meeting last time. That was the South East Faversham, more commonly known as the Duchy site. Yeah. The next one wasn't discussed either because it's a strategic site, but this is not the not the Duchy site. This is the land north of it, but it's known as land east of Faversham. So on the numbers game, that could do 2,665 dwellings. But as I said, this was not discussed at the last meeting because we weren't talking about strategic sites.
But Chair, sorry, has that come out now though? Because we've changed our strategic approach. Does that come out in
effect? That's what we're discussing.
number 4?
That's correct, yeah.
So we've got Councillor Harrison seems content that we leave it out, as unsurprisingly am I. Is there a dissent from that view that we leave it out, having changed our strategic allocation? Councillor Baldock is quietly suggesting we vote on it. Would you like to vote on it, Councillor Baldock? So Councillor Baldock has suggested we include this strategic site separate to our strategic allocations. All those in favour of that allocation? That is one. Any against that view? Perhaps unsurprisingly, Councillor Baldock, that has not passed on this occasion. We will leave.
Okay, moving on. The next one was Sheila 212. Excuse me, land south of A2 London Road. This was not chosen at the last meeting.
Any dissent from our previous decision?
This was one that we specifically said Faversham had taken enough, we wouldn't include it. If we're going to take this, if we're taking out the 2,200 that was previously going in from the last one, which would have effectively made up the largest Faversham number, what are the the pros and cons of this one? Because it is for 122 sites, it is potentially suitable. It's land south of A2 London Road, west of Water Lane.
So I'm very happy to hand over to Stuart, and I'll go to Councillor Gould. But my personal view are the real challenge we have of anything west of Faversham is that the A2 fundamentally doesn't work for the number of cars it already has on it, and that is their only way to access the motorway. So building in that direction out of Faversham is really difficult.
But wasn't that the opportunity to get another connection to the M2?
No.
It was at one point.
But anyway, Councillor Gould.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, exactly that. I mean, Water Lane is about the narrowest point on the A2 and one of the hardest bits to get it in and out of. So it's, I almost would prefer to see a very small bit to the west of Faversham, slight extension there rather than putting anything in there.
Okay.
But yeah, not there.
I think something needs to be considered is, as I say, the Duchy site now has got their resolution to grant. Looking at the sites that were selected at the previous meeting around Faversham, there was another 250 from small sites as well. So if you continue to roll those forward into this option 4, you'll have the Duchy plus about another 250 in total going into Faversham. So that's something for members to consider. The site that you're talking about now, I did actually go out to see myself as well. It's got a live plan application. I think it's still at very early stages. It's offering an alternative parking scheme for the primary school. That's just to the east of it. The actual Heller finds that the eastern parcel, it's sort of the south east element of it, is not particularly suitable, but the western parcel could be suitable. So that 122 might come down slightly based on that approach, that we'd be taking about a third of the land out. But as I say, it's got a live plan application as well. So
right. We don't have a proposal. We did not. Yeah, we did not previously include it. Is there any dissent from that opinion, having discussed it now? No, we will leave it to the planning committee. Thank you very much. All moving on, Stuart.
okay, the next one is Sheila 356 land at Brogdale. Again, this was not chosen last time for 462 dwellings.
Happy to leave out? No. It is indeed across the fruit collection. No dissent from leaving it as was. Thank you, Stuart.
And the next one is Sheila 381. This is the Sindel Park for 9 dwellings, and that was chosen last time.
Any dissent? Was. All content. Moving on.
Next one is Sheila 393, land at Lionfield for 68 dwellings, and that was chosen at the last meeting.
All still content with that approach? Sorry. Failing to use my microphone. No dissent. We'll carry on then. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to Sheerness, there was 2 sites there, and both Sheila 418 and 421 were chosen at the last meeting.
Any dissent from that view or questions?
My question again would be about deliverability, but you're going to give me the same kind of answer, aren't you? About it, just they've been earmarked, and Councillor Harrison will know they've been earmarked for industrial and employment for decades. It's changed now recently, so we've lost it off the employment land allocation. But the amount it's in a flood zone. There's all sorts of problems with the land, and seeing it come forward with a 50% 5-year land supply, housing land supply, the land at Westminster. Yeah.
Councillor Harrison.
Yeah, and I did discuss this with my colleague who sort of pushed for it to go in. Don't forget, there may be problems with that site, but this was a housing estate. There were 2 pubs there. The reason it went over to, for many, many years, was allocated as industrial. And we did have an argument. I can remember sitting in this chamber because obviously, there's no services. There's not much we can do with the site. And Steve went, but there was a housing estate. There were 2 pubs. What do you mean there's no services there? Well.
My question, Chair, I wasn't questioning we leave it in, Councillor Harrison. I was questioning the 50% 5-year land supply forecast. I just think it's going to take longer than that, and I think we just need to adjust that. But
I think we can take that note for Stuart to look at. Councillor MacDonald, have you got a question as well?
No, that's fine. I think it probably ought to be included, or part of the site anyway. But that's up to the experts.
We're all agreed as one on this one. That's very positive. Thank you. Moving on then, Stuart.
So is that agreed for both of the Sheerness sites then? Yeah. Okay, thank you. So then moving on to Minster, Scockles Road, Sheila 181, 575 dwellings was not chosen at the last meeting.
the planning inspector give 575
Yeah, so it went to appeal and was allowed through the appeal, but that happened after the last monitoring year, so it's not in our extant supply that forms the table at the moment. So it will go into the next iteration of the data. But you can't take that approach because the extant list considers all consented sites that have then been built out. So even though that site has now been allowed by the planning inspectorate, you'll need to look at all of the sites that have been permitted, all the sites that have been completed to find out what the balance is. So even though there is again the 575 there, we have to factor in sites that may have not been implemented. We have to factor in completion. So it can't just be a matter of that's an additional 575. We have to look at the whole picture. And we won't be able to do that until the monitoring for this year's been completed in the spring to summer time.
So the numbers are there. They need to be somewhere in our calculation. This is not a small amount. It's a huge amount. 575. That means that we could actually remove over 1,000 from option, if option 4 was chosen. It means that we have only to find 200 to replace Highstead in option 6. So just to not include them somewhere,
Yeah, it's got to go in.
it's got to go somewhere.
I mean, it can go in this list.
Yeah.
We
can
leave
allocate
in.
it.
We can allocate it because it's got planning.
Yeah.
It seems a bit bizarre.
No, we couldn't allocate it because it's got planning consent now. I do take members' concerns on board about the figure, and as I say, it's not as straightforward as just saying we've only got 575. We do have to look at the overall picture of consented sites, but it's something that we can note that it is there that could provide an additional buffer, but we don't have the details of what that will be until we look at all the consented supply as part of our annual monitoring.
Hold on. So the inspector obviously allowed this on appeal and would have considered our 5-year supply as probably part of that in their fact, what they would have said. Can you remember, Councillor Whiting, what they said?
The only thing I remember was at appeal. We didn't. Sorry, Chair. All I remember was at appeal. I attended one day of it. We didn't actually fight the appeal. We didn't object. We decided by then that we weren't going to fight the appeal. That's my recollection of it. And I thought it was 650 actually. I think it went up to 650.
Councillor Good.
That's about it.
So at the moment you're saying it can't go in because will there be a point before the inspection when this could go in? You know, we say there's work to be done. If we look between now and the inspection, is there a likelihood that actually this could actually be counted, even if technically it can't quite go in at this moment? In which case, can we ignore the technicalities and put it in anyway?
So the table that was in the report in the 22nd of January meeting set out what the current extant supply is at the base date of 1st of April of last year. It takes quite a bit of time to do the monitoring to work out all the consented sites, all the ones that have had build-outs and so forth to get to that balance. We will be redoing the numbers before we submit for examination so we know what the final balance is that we'll be working with. Bearing in mind we still need to have buffers here for examination resilience, so if the figures come out slightly more in our favour, that gives us a stronger position going into examination. Unfortunately, it's one of these sites that's in somewhat of a limbo with the figures that we have at the moment because it's been allowed since the 1st of April of last year. So it will be going into our consented supply, but it needs to be considered as the overall supply position. But as I said, we will be updating those figures before examination, but because it takes time to do the monitoring, to review all the data, we won't have that information before the Reg 19.
Understood. So I've got Councillor MacDonald, but then...
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, that particular site, clearly there hasn't been a start on it, but I would think in the 5-year period it's definitely going to be, because the landowners will be wanting to cash in on, it probably won't be built out completely, but I don't know. It just depends on the demand. But I think they will come forward. I would assume anyway, because it's been granted on appeal. So, yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Councillor Whiting.
Thanks, Chair. I'm just trying to apply logic, and I accept what Stuart's saying, but trying to apply his logic into the Duchy site. So are we saying the 2,500 houses in that are not going to be counted? If the one at Borden goes ahead with 2.5 are bobbing, are we going to say those 2,500 aren't going to be counted? Because they would be in the same position as the land east of Scockles Road, which has been consented since the 1st of April last year.
So the council, in terms of its housing land supply, has a monitoring year that runs from the 1st of April through to the following year, 31st of March, and that aligns with the government's monitoring requirements when they expect us to submit information and to align with that. So to refer to your Duchy question, that has been consented before the 31st of March, and Bobbin, I understand, is going to Planning Committee in 2 weeks' time, so again, that will be before the 31st of March. So bearing in mind the government's deadline under the legacy systems they're now calling it is the 31st of December, we would have to submit before then, and our base date for our data will be the 1st of April of this year. So everything that's consented up to the 31st of March for this year will go into that data, so that will include Duchy and other sites. Yes, and Scotland.
So Councillor Baldock, then Councillor Harrison.
So how many more sites are in this limbo? How many more numbers are in this limbo? Because it looks to me like we are pretty much over what we need to find. And it might not all come in the right timings, but this is going to end up with us way over allocating, simply because we haven't included a significant number of developments. This is absolutely chronic. We're trying to, we're talking about 12s and 20s, and we've got possibly 1,000 houses that are consented but don't count. Because I know there are other applications that have gone through this year that sit in this weird limbo. So we're pulling ourselves apart over small numbers to try and get to a target we might already have reached. We just need to get a way of actually including them, because I don't want us going out to Reg 19 with a load of houses and then a year later we find out actually on top of that we've got another 1,000 that we've already allocated or we've given permission to but just didn't include. This is really concerning. Somehow we've got to take this into account. I don't think we should be looking to get the full amount knowing that we've got potentially 1,000 already there.
If I might, I think our problem is trying to apply logic to the British planning system, which is not designed in that nature. Yeah, but Councillor Harrison, you had a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Did I hear correctly, Stuart? You said Hella 181 was not included. Okay, so I'm proposing that we include it. How's that? Sorted.
I'll just second that.
That's correct. We can't include it because it's got planning consent now. Just coming back to the point, in terms of all the consents that have happened in the last 11 months since the data was last run, yes, there may be a case that we have a figure there, but we also have to factor in completions during that time. And on average, over the last few years, we've been completing somewhere in the region of 700 to 800 dwellings. So even if there were 1,000 consents, which I don't have that information because we need to do the whole robust approach of monitoring, a good chunk of that will be countered by the completions that come off the supply.
But that's for the period that's already gone. That's not how this works at all. We will be setting a local.
It is how it works, unfortunately. Councillor Bonney.
I hear what you say about completions, but as of today, given what's going on in the market, I think it's safe to say that completions will be slowing down. Finance rates are going up, mortgage rates are going up, we've got an oil crisis and no end in sight with a war that we've been dragged into. And quite frankly, if you I talked to an estate agent today, it's dead. And I think you've got to take account of where we currently are. And the last couple of months hasn't been brilliant. So I think we'll see rapidly developers switching off the taps because they need to have an end in sight. I think you'll see a lot of things stalling. You speak to the contractors, you speak to the builders, it's very quiet.
Sorry. So just to clarify, I don't think there's anything we in this committee can do about this. I think it is now well documented our dissatisfaction with this system.
But I still think, I still think that means we need to bear it in mind when we're trying to get numbers. We may not have sufficient allocations, and this is what we talked about in relation to the Highstead figure. But when it goes through Reg 19, these figures are going to have to be included. And if it means that we have to, dedicate some extra resources, because it does, I fail to understand how it takes so long to get these figures. We should have a running spreadsheet that gives us an indication of what's been built, what hasn't been built, what's been consented, so that we can get this sort of information relatively quickly. I know we have to go out and check to see what has been delivered and what their expectations are. But when you're talking like figures like this, that's got to form part of the Reg 19, or it's evidence we then submit after the Reg 19 to the inspector to show that actually, although we didn't have these figures in we didn't hit the target in our Reg 19, these completions and future development agreements take us above it.
I think we're saying broadly the same thing, which is we can't do anything about it, but we should note it for our consideration. Stuart and then Councillor Bob.
So to provide some clarity on the process, what authorities do as part of the plan when they come to submit is they submit a topic paper alongside the Reg 19. So that provides the most up-to-date evidence, collation and data. So that's where we would put the most up-to-date balance of supply position. So we would be able to, at that stage, indicate to the inspector if how our figures have changed from the work we were doing at this time to the point of submission in December. So it isn't just ignored, it's included in a topic paper that goes alongside the local plan for examination.
Councillor Bonney, then Councillor Clark.
Yeah, I'm really concerned because this is going to full council, for which there are a lot of members who've not been party to this discussion and who are looking at these numbers, who are saying, oh, okay, this is part of an allocation. And then the assumption that those that have been approved have been put on the other side, as it were, of the page in accounting terms. And what we have is a raft of numbers that are not in there, that are, shall we say, invisible for the moment, but when the special ink comes along, will be revealed. And I totally agree with what Councillor Baldock said around we need almost this shadow list so that the members, I actually think P&R were misled last night, quite frankly, totally. And looking at the options, because we've made decisions on this previous one around allocating a whole raft of sites here, and it's only come out tonight. So that means we've allocated sites that probably we didn't really want to.
Yeah.
650 is one hell of a lot of allocation there. I think this really needs a proper explanatory note when this goes to full council, so councils can see those shadow invisible numbers that are in the background that haven't been factored in. There needs to be an explanatory note.
Yeah.
This is extremely concerning.
I've got the chief exec, then two others.
Yeah, sure.
I would ask Councillor Bonney to withdraw the comment that members were misled. What Stuart has been very clear about is that we are not allowed to put those numbers in. I accept that that is difficult, but that is different from us misleading you, which would suggest that we were telling you that, something different. Stuart is being very clear. I'm not saying that it's fair or right, but that is different from officers misleading members, which is clearly not what happened last night. Thank you, Chair.
Discussed last night.
This wasn't, I think if you look on the face of it, it is, to my mind, you've got a set of numbers here that you've got to achieve. And we're being told that we've achieved X, Y, and Z planning, and we know there's some in the interim, but they have just disappeared. That is misleading. Not saying the officer has misled, but the appearance of where those have gone, that is misleading because people come to the wrong conclusion.
We don't need as many houses as we're being told.
The system, perhaps a little misleading, certainly not officers.
Yes, but we need that system and those.
And a briefing note on that, I think. I don't think
Absolutely.
there's any dissent from that. I've got Councillor Clark, then Councillor White.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I mean, this is bamboozling me a little bit, but when we talk about approvals and consents, we've got to get the right word in, because whilst the Duchy land has been approved for development, it hasn't yet been consented because of the preparation of the Section 106 agreement and other conditions. So we've got to be careful how we look at these sites. Have they been approved for development, or are they consented?
Fair note. Thank you. Councillor Whiting.
Councillor Clark makes a very good point, but I'm again very simplistic, and going back to Councillor Bonnie's point and yours, Chairman, about an explanatory note. I think it's going to be vital when we go to full council. If we're being expected to produce a plan that's going to produce 13,000 houses over a period, and we find that there's the best part of 3,500 houses, and possibly next week there could be another 2,500, so we're up to 5,000 or 6,000 houses that have been approved, that suddenly are in addition. Do we still need to produce 13,000 in our plan, or has our plan requirement come down to 7? So that's the explanation that would need to be spelt out for people so that they understood, because effectively it kind of puts us in a position where we're having to provide 20,000 houses, not 13, because somebody's come along and got themselves permission for those 7 in the middle somewhere.
Noted. Councillor MacDonald.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I'm a bit simple, but if things are actually allocated, although they haven't been started or haven't been built, somehow or other we've got to make sure that that counts as part of Swale's allocation for numbers. Now, I think you've done an incredible amount of work, quite frankly, but that, to my mind, being simple, as I say, is if they're allocated, even though somebody hasn't started them, but you have to provide an allocation. So it may be that the Sir Humphreys and Whitehall have drafted the requirements for the council in an odd way. But anyway, that's my own simple way of actually looking at it.
Thank you. I think noting the hour and how far we are down, and there isn't really a satisfactory resolution, I think we should move on from Scockles Road. I'm thinking that there's no
one thing
how is vital, Councillor Bonnet.
Sorry, yeah, and this is something that's bugged me for a while. Is as a local plan working group, we don't really have any oversight. It feels like we should have a running spreadsheet and things that get consented to, but they're not yet formally consented. We know the Section 106s, etc. But we need the column, and I'm sure the officers have got them, but they do need to be shared, I think, with councillors, that we have this working list. We know exactly where they are, what's been granted. We know build out is, variable as things go through, but you can tell on a 6 monthly basis or whatever, we need to have an understanding of where we are. Yeah. And this goes back to a point that I have raised consistently about Section 106s and when we're consenting. Had Section 106 come to committee along with the papers the other night, we'd have been in position to grant. We're not. We've now got probably weeks, maybe even months of to-ing and fro-ing and not really knowing, I have to say, hand on heart, what it is we're going to end up with. And you'll have heard my views on that the other night. That's not the position we should be in. We should be having a pro forma, and it should come to committee. And the local plan working group should be keeping tabs on what's consented and where the delivery of the Section 106 is being achieved or not being achieved. We have no oversight as a committee as to what those consents have actually provided to us. And that is really the job of this committee, because we should be tweaking our policies for the next plan going forward based on what we've delivered, not waiting for a report to come along after 6 years because our local plan's expired.
Noted on that tasking. I think we can definitely look at that for a future, probably not of this council, but we can have a look at setting it up for our possible successors. Noting where we are, then can we move on to 182, Stuart?
Yeah, so 182 land off Elm Lane, 133 dwellings, was not proposed. Next one, Sheila 183, land north of Nelson Avenue, 92 homes, not proposed. Next one, Sheila 244, Halfway Houses Primary School, for 60 dwellings, was proposed.
Yeah, again, I'd have a question about deliverability there. I don't think Homes England will deliver 50% of those in 5 years.
Is that based on past experience?
Just a feeling I had, Monique.
Just something in the water. Noted. I think for our report, but we're content for those 60 to stay in the allocation. All agreed. Thank you. Moving.
Next one, Sheila 246, land at South Westminster for 1,000 dwellings, was not proposed. Okay, Sheila 338, land adjacent to Dantlins, Plough Road, for 6 dwellings, not proposed. Sheila 341, land to the east of Oak Lane, 190 dwellings, not proposed. Sheila 345, land at Lower Road for 590 dwellings, not proposed.
The Stuart spreadsheet will tell us if they've got planning permission, I believe.
Yeah. The next one is Sheila 402, Hollybush Farm, Caravan Park, 124 units, and that was proposed.
Any dissent from our previous view? No? Happy, leave it in.
Yeah. Next one is Sheila 408, East Review, Bell Farm, for 15, and that was proposed.
Any dissent? No, leave it in.
Next one is Sheila 412, Golden Lees Holiday Park, 232, and that was proposed.
No dissent, leave it in.
Moving on to Queenborough and Rushenden then. So the Homes England sites are classified as brownfield, so they would automatically carry through to be... Well, so it's the whole cluster. So starting from the top, you've got Sheila 216, land at West Street. So it's one of the parcels of the Homes England site. That's for 80 dwellings. It's brownfield site.
All of these are
At the Homes England cluster, yeah.
All part of that 1,015.
So our calculation is maintaining that at 1,015. We have already agreed to include them all as brownfield site. We said we would have a specific discussion on it because Homes England have told us they don't currently intend to deliver 1,015 homes. But the previous view of this council, the view of our officers, is that is what that land could and should deliver. So, Councillor Bonney, any dissent or difference of view on that?
Yeah, I mean, they specifically carved out the element that would have been the marina section, which arguably would have been some of the possibly most attractive and high density development, because it would be on the waterfront there. So I think there's actually a good argument that we should be having with them to increase, not to decrease.
Councillor Whiting.
Thanks. I would at least keep it the same, but I'm cognizant of the risk that Stuart has alluded to, that when we get to examination, they will simply turn up and say, well, we're not going to build that many. And you've got to take 500 out of your number. because they have been quite clear so far that they are likely to drop this to 500. The consequences, as we spoke of earlier, is we're going to have more greenfield sites to fill the gap. We're going to lose all the social housing. We're going to lose the school. We're going to lose the doctors. We're going to lose lots of things because money won't be there to pay for it. But if we go in high, which is what we'd like to do, because we'd like to see it a vibrant and productive and viable site. If we know in advance they're not going to do that, what's the risk when we get to examination, Stuart, through you, Chair?
So it'll be for them to formally submit as part of the Reg 19 or before to us as the HELA process before the Reg 19 that they have different aspirations for delivery on that site. So for now, I would suggest sticking with the adopted local plan quantities for the parcels that make up the cluster, and then wait for the formal comments to come in. I think what my point is, as previously discussed, is the importance of having this buffer, or even going beyond the buffer, having that breathing space for these kind of scenarios where we may end up having a lower quantum on this cluster.
Councillor Baldock.
And I said it earlier, I'll say it again, the point of this is to make policies, to make it clear what we expect that site to be capable of delivering, which is all the things that Councillor Whiting has said. If they come forward with applications which don't meet that, then we should be rejecting them. We should be saying, this is outlining in our local plan, like we've done before, this is what we expect from this site, this is what we know this site can deliver, that's what it needs to deliver. And then they can measure it against the local plan policy afterwards. But if we start to try and accommodate them at an earlier stage, well, that'll be the base point, and then they'll try and accommodate us down a bit lower.
Noted, I don't think there's any disagreement from the officer recommendation in the room that we stick where we are and keep these allocated at 1,015. Content, we will move on then, Stuart.
Okay, moving on then to Sheila 037, land off Colonel's Lane. 15 dwellings was proposed.
Yes,
Bolton,
we've moved into Bolton. Any dissent from our previous agreement for these 15? No, leaving them in.
The next one's Sheila 044, the former Garden Hotel for 10 dwellings. Yeah, I think there's a live planning application that hasn't been determined yet. I think it's come down further, yeah. So at the moment it's more likely to be 10, I think is achievable on that site.
There was planning for 10 on that site, and 16 was looking quite a squeeze. So, well, yeah, it was too much for a squeeze. So 10, I think, is reasonable.
So 10's what we're proposing, which is a reduction in the number on our previous spreadsheet, but is what's live on Stuart's spreadsheet. So content with that. We had previously allocated it. No dissent. 10, yeah. Moving on.
Very quick question. If that application is live and it gets sorted out before the 31st, does it then drop out of our numbers? Yeah. Yes.
They're just to provide
Not
some
a lot of
context.
movement
I've
on it.
spoken to the DM officer, who's still a long way off at the moment.
On we roll.
Yep, so Sheila 344, land adjacent to Laysdown Road. This is for 62 dwellings and it was proposed.
Happy to leave in. Thank you. Moving on.
The next one is Sheila 366, lands to the west of Sherland Castle. This was not proposed.
Any disagreement to that? No. Leave it out.
Okay, moving on to Iwade. Sheila 135, Iwade fruit and produce for 21 dwellings was not proposed.
Need to leave it out. Happy.
Okay, moving on. Sheila 137, land south and southwest of Iwade, 515 dwellings not proposed.
Happy to do that.
Next one, Sheila 343, Street Farm, the street for 13 dwellings not proposed.
Any dissent? No. Happy.
The next one is Sheila 360, land west of Old Ferry Road for 630 dwellings not proposed.
Needs all happy.
The next one, Sheila 401, Coles Hall Farm, 462 dwellings, not proposed.
I think it's done very well there.
Moving on to Laysdown, Sheila 142, Vanity Village, for 144 dwellings, not proposed.
Councillor Baldock?
Are we sure about that? It's brownfield, and I thought this was something that we were looking at, potential for park homes. I don't see what the problem is here. 144. Oh, Sheila 142, 144 houses. I thought we wanted to get park homes so that people can live there and older people.
I think they're looking at the vacant parcels of land around it, so technically it won't be brownfield.
Well, why is it down as brownfield?
Yeah.
It is here. Yeah.
Yeah, Sheila 142 brownfield.
It does also say best and most versatile in the comments as well, so I suspect it's a combination of both, isn't it? It's the land surrounding the developed area. But Councillor MacDonald.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I see a lot of these sites at Laysdown. Frankly, the holiday business has gone. And as you know, there's been all sorts of problems with regard to people moving in and staying in there over time. And now enforcement has thing. And frankly, I think a number of these sites, they'll never go back to agriculture. No. So I would have thought they would be absolutely ideal for proper building, quite frankly. Once the infrastructure of the road and that sort of thing is sorted, I would have thought, they could possibly be, particularly if you start off with smaller sites, converted to proper building. Thank you.
So we've had a discussion and a proposal to include it
As park homes.
A note on park homes. It was obviously, if it's on this list, it was hella suitable, so we could have included it previously. We chose not to elect it. Councillor Harrison.
I would say as is. I keep it off because there is a 20-year project coming up. Frankly, some of those buildings ain't suitable for converting, demolition really. But there is a 20-year project coming up that could look at what they need rather than us telling them, you should be doing this. And they might come up, the people up there who live there, with some really good suggestions. They might come up with some really good housing estates because we've had too many years of holiday homes converted or indeed not converted, but now permanent living accommodation, although it shouldn't be. And it's almost Rackman, basically, up there in some places. And people are living there 12 months a year. So I'd be happy. I mean, park homes is another separate issue, in my view, to these homes that we really need to get to grips with. But I wouldn't include it in this thing.
Noted. Councillor Baldock, you've proposed it.
I'm going to propose it, yeah. It's the sort of housing offer that we don't currently have. It's in a good location for that. And as I say, it's listed down here as brownfield, so I think it should automatically have gone in, so I'm proposing it.
Right. We have a proposal, therefore, to include 144 park homes on Sheila 142. All those in favour of that? 1, 2, 3, 4.
Peter, you just said you did.
All those against? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, I was abstaining, so we will leave it out for now. Thank you.
Okay, moving on then. Sheila 143.
And votes against it.
Land south of Little Groves for 53 dwellings. That was proposed.
Any dissent from that conclusion? No, leave it in.
Next one's Sheila 323, Sheppey Beach Villas for 133 units, and that was proposed.
Any dissent from that? Happy? Moving on.
Okay, moving on to Newington now. Sheila 197, land rear of Eden Meadows for 140, not proposed.
Any dissent from that? Leave it out. Happy?
Next one, Sheila 199, land rear of 128 High Street for 55 dwellings, not proposed.
No dissent, happy.
Sheila 380, land to the west and east of Newington Industrial Estate. Again, this is one that's probably more suitable for employment, but was assessed as part of that.
Understood. Happy to leave it as an employment. Yeah. Agreed, moving on.
Sheila 399, land to the north of Brickfields for 13 units, not proposed.
Dissent, happy.
Sheila 415, land at Church Lane, 102 units. Sorry, that was rounded down to 90, and that was proposed.
So we just to be clear, land at Church Lane, Newington, we did propose it. The number has gone down ever so slightly to 90. 415. Any dissent or discussion on that? Councillor Bold.
On the basis that if the option 4 goes through, I think this is one of those that we could take the opportunity to remove. We have a buffer of 800. We have 800 excess. That's before we take into account the unallocated ones. I think this one would be it's in a dreadful location. We have opposed development at Church Lane, so I propose we take that back, contribute to our number of reductions.
Noted. Councillor White.
Well, am I right in remembering that this was one of those sites that was so close to the railway station that permitted development might kick in anyway? So we felt we might as well just leave it in.
Yeah, if I can come in. I think it also has a live planning application on it. So it's been submitted twice, and in the last call for sites in 2024, they submitted kind of like a sort of footpath extension, which would link it directly to the train station on the other side. So it's that.
They took you to the railway station, but they didn't take you over it till you could actually get on the platform.
So just a question about that permitted. That was the change, wasn't it?
Yeah, so it was resubmitted. It really was just a boundary tweak plus this kind of like extension of a sort of footpath that would connect it close to the train station.
Councillor Gould.
So sorry, just going back to the permitted development thing, is that something new that's coming in, that you get permitted development if you're that close to a railway station? Because that might have implications for selling.
So at the moment, there's been, well, it's actually closed now. So there's been a consultation on a new MPPF, which provides a strong policy steer towards encouraging development close and around train stations. So at the moment, that's still a draft document that's been out for consultation. It could be subject to change, but it does seem like it's a government policy objective.
Well, let's not obey before we have to.
Noted. Councillor, well, we've got a proposal from Councillor Baldock, which sounds like Councillor Gould is seconding, to remove these 90 from our allocation if we stick with Model 4. So we shall vote on that. All those in favour of removing them? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All those against? 3. I'm happy to abstain. We are suggesting we'll remove that from our allocation if we can make the numbers work.
Yeah,
Councillor
and
Whiting.
you mentioned in your summing up then before we voted, if we go for channel 4, if we go for option 4, remove it. If there is an option 6 being worked up behind the scenes, we may have to leave it in.
Yeah, just to re-clarify, these numbers we're working now to, which are slightly lower, are as an amendment to be considered with option 4. If full council were to reverse policy and resources decision and go for strategic option 6, we would broadly have very little option but to go with our previous allocation of these non-strategic sites. The maths would be very difficult any other way. So that's the maths we're working. Sorry, Larissa.
However, just be aware that what you agreed last night for the second part does contain Highstead. So in the event that it was option 6 and you wanted to remove Highstead, somebody needs to be ready with another amendment to remove Highstead. Don't assume that it won't be in there because that's the proposal. So just to make members aware, if something flips and you end up with the second option, someone has still got to find an amendment for that.
Understood. and
to remove it. Sorry,
yeah, and some more numbers. I think the committee and the borough have made its views pretty clear on Highstead. But Councillor Gold.
So I mean that's practically a given that that wants to be removed, but it needs to actually happen, is what you're saying. So that's the First Amendment that goes in, and then other.
No, so if the First Amendment's going to be, and I'm not, this is hypothetical.
Yep.
If the First Amendment is to change on the first bit, so 4 or 6, I'm assuming an amendment may go in for that. If that passes, so we go back to option 6, then there is no real need to change the second part, except, so if there is an amendment and it falls and we're with option 4, you will then naturally have an amendment of this to do the other bit of option 4. So either way, for the second part, you are looking at an amendment.
The amendment.
Well, what increase? The
Sites. Sorry, the sites that we've increased or included tonight that weren't previously there.
yeah, that's what this amendment will be.
That will also contribute to number 6, won't it?
Well, we don't know if we'll get to that, but yes, it could contribute to number 6. We don't know that the maths will be there to make that possible. But that's what we can aim at.
Scockles, we can.
Well, yeah. Let's not go backwards. Moving
it's there to be remembered.
We've all got the frustration on that, but Councillor Gold.
I mean, there's some very complicated footwork here, I think, with these amendments. And presumably for a full council meeting, they should be submitted in advance.
Yeah.
But there may be lots of amendments that will need to go in, with some of them being withdrawn on the night. Is what we need to do.
So if and when members have decided who wishes to put an amendment in, if they contact Joe or me, then we can choreograph it so you know what to put in when and how. If it's before, that is good, because what would be good is if we can submit the amendments around so all members get the opportunity to have a look, because I'm suggesting that when people just get a whole load of figures, they'll be like, whoa, what's that about? So the earlier that the amendment can go in following the publication of the papers, then the earlier we can get it round. I mean, there is a rule that says we would get it round, the amendments close at Monday, but with agreement from the mayor and agreement, we can submit them earlier if that, to give members the largest amount of time. But if members decide they wish to put in an amendment, and I'm not suggesting they should, if they contact either Joe Millard or me, then we will work with you to choreograph how that works and work with the mayor as well. So we know that that's, because it is been agreed by P&R that is likely to happen. We are in a different situation with, as long as the person that's putting the amendment in is comfortable that it's shared early, and Madam Mayor is comfortable that it's shared early, then we can do that.
Understood. I've got Councillor Clark.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's not a specific question on this parcel, but how are they monitored somehow? Those sites that are consented, and then they run the site out of time for their planning permission starting, i.e. the 3 years, because I can think of a couple of sites in my ward that have been that are in that situation, and the one that comes straight to mind is the one between Sainsbury's car park in Sittingbourne and the back of the high street. They got consent. Is there any way that we measure or record those sites that have got permission that then runs out?
Sure.
Yeah, where to start on this? I think the first point is that depending on the type of planning application, depends on how long they have in which to implement a site. So an outline planning permission has 3 years in which to submit a reserved matters application. And then the reserve matters application has 2 years from when it's been decided to be implemented. So a site that gains outline consent could effectively have up to 5 years in which to implement, maybe longer if it takes longer to resolve the reserve matters application.
But yeah, I'm talking about a site with full planning permission.
Yeah, so in those cases, we actually, as part of our annual monitoring, go out and survey all the sites with detailed planning consent to determine if they've been commenced or not. If after the end of the 2-year period for a detailed consent for full planning, it has not commenced, then the following monitoring year we will remove that site from the supply. If that makes sense.
Sorry, could I come back, Chair? And what criteria do you use for a developer starting a site? Is it just digging one trench or clearing the site? What criteria is used for having that? You know, they can turn around then and say, well, we've actually started our permission.
So to lock in a consent, formal implementation has to have been commenced on a site, and that would have to be confirmed through a building control survey. So the minimum for that is for a trench to be dug and poured. That would lock in a planning consent then indefinitely until the development's completed. We don't consider a cleared site implementation. It has to be that actual formal start on site, so the minimum of at least a trench being poured.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. I've got Councillor Speed had a question as well.
Yes, just to go back to that amendment, if that needs to be tabled to remove Highstead, would that amendment also need to include how the 2,000 that Highstead represents would be catered for? So that would need to be done in conjunction with the officers.
Well, and hopefully that is the proposal we will come out of this evening with, right. Is that we will have at least one amendment. We might, as Councillor Bolt said, it is possible we'll come up with 2 viable amendments that could deliver 6 and then this, or 4 and then this, but we will certainly come out with at least one. Councillor Harrison.
This is a question. How many more have we got to go through?
We are on page 15 of 23. I'd like to believe we were accelerating towards the end, but that might be naivete. Would you like us to take a brief respite and return at 10 p.m? I'm broadly reluctant to do that, but if the will of the working group is that we take 10 minutes.
I'm happy to sit here half the night if need be, but it's got to be focused and not keep going back to this and back to that. You know, some of the things we've dragged on is actually nothing to do with us. There's a process, whether you agree with it or not. There's no point kicking against the traces ad nauseum.
So is that a proposal for a 10-minute tea break, Councillor Harrison?
Yes. Either way.
Councillor Bonney would like one.
Proposal for a 10-minute tea break.
Councillor Bonney would like a 10-minute tea break. Chief Exec's relaxed about it, so why not? We will return at 10. I don't think... Do we need to extend standing orders because we didn't start late?
It's informal.
We're in an informal meeting, so I think we're fine. So we will return at 10 o'clock. Standing orders be damned. See you later, brothers. Right, members. Yeah, we are all back, and I'm hoping Stuart remembers which number we were just on, and we will plough on.
415. I'm just wondering if we've actually, any of these have actually been given permission. Because I thought land at Church Lane came up at planning committee and got permission.
Councillor Palmer, you've raised your hand.
It has been. It was given planning permission at the planning committee. I believe the decision notice hadn't been issued as yet, or it hadn't a week ago. It's subject to 106 agreement, etc. But what Councillor Baldock said is correct. Thank you.
Thank you. So we will not win. I mean, I don't know where that leaves us on the list. It's moving into the invisible strip, possibly. But we shall move on, noting that for Stuart's spreadsheet. So on to 417, please.
Okay, 417 land west of Pond Farm, 105 dwellings not proposed.
No, happy.
419, 148 High Street, Newington, 44 dwellings not proposed.
Happy.
Next one, Sheila 346, Digswell, 11 dwellings, that is proposed. Yeah.
All still happy? Yep. Consent, leave it in.
And then Sheila 368, Amethyst Horticulture, 52 dwellings, Brownfield proposed.
Going to suggest that be one of those that we look at taking out if option 4 goes through. Because this is... It is Brownfield, but it's we've got 800 extra under option 4, and I think this is one of those. It's slap bang on the A2 outside of Newington, and I think it wouldn't. I don't see how it would be sustainable, given other sites are not sustainable. I just think it's an unsuitable site. It would be an unnecessary development, and. Best and most versatile land.
Noted. It is listed as Greenfield on our list, but Councillor Harrison, you raised your hand.
It was a question for Stuart, because it's all right, Councillor Baldock saying, well, no, we've got 800 spare, but I thought we needed a buffer.
That's with the buffer.
That 800 that he's referring to is the 5% buffer. So, as we've already talked about, that's needed in case site capacities change or sites fall away as part of the drafting and examination.
Yeah, I'm talking about the difference that we don't need for option 4. There's a big drop in what we need to get, and I'm suggesting this comes out of that big drop.
We've discussed the overall strategic at great length, so staying on the focus, we have a proposal on the table to remove these 52. All those in favour of removing these 52? All those against? I will abstain, but that has not carried, so we will leave it in for the time being. So, moving on then, we are, where are we? Tenham next. How exciting.
Tenham. So, Sheila 153, land at Claxfield for 127 dwellings, that's proposed. Next one, Sheila 154, land at Claxfield Road for 12 dwellings, that's proposed.
Happy.
Next one, Sheila 277, Barrow Green Farm for 30 dwellings, that's proposed.
Happy.
Next one is Sheila 278, land west of Frognall Lane, 502 dwellings, not proposed.
Happy.
Next one, Sheila 279, land at Barrow Green Farm for 278, not proposed.
Happy.
Sheila 280, land east of Tenham, 407 dwellings, not proposed.
Happy.
Sheila 285, land north of Lower Road, 33 dwellings, not proposed.
Happy.
Sheila 286, land adjoining Mayfield, London Road, 13 dwellings, that is proposed.
10. Yeah. Happy, leave it in.
Moving on to Bayview, one site there, Sheila 141, land west of Mustards Road, 21 dwellings, not proposed.
Dissent from that view. No, leave it out. Happy.
Now into Borden. Sheila 022, land at Street Farm, 15 dwellings, and that's proposed.
Keep it in. Happy.
Next one, Sheila 026, land at Home Farm, 54 dwellings, not proposed.
No dissent. Leave it out.
Sheila 300, land opposite Uplands, 16 dwellings, not proposed.
Happy. Leave it out.
Sheila 326, land to the rear of 14 Barn Close, 9 dwellings, not proposed.
Happy. Leave it out.
Moving on to Hartlip, Sheila 119, land west of Lower Hartlip, 26 dwellings, proposed.
Any dissent from that view? Councillor.
I'd propose, given that we are this for option 4, we're well over. I would say this one is an urban. I would say this is a greenfield site that we need not include if we're going to go with option 4. No, it won't come out. We don't. This is only if we go to option 4 that we're taking these out.
Purpose tonight is about option 4.
Because they.
So we have a proposal on the table to remove land west of Lower Hartlip Road, 26 dwellings. Councillor Bonney, seconding or speaking?
No, seconding.
Happy. Anyone else have a view, wish to express, or should we move straight to the vote? No, moving straight to the vote. Then those in favour of removing 119, mooing 1, 2, 3. Those against? Any abstentions? 2 abstentions, so we have voted to remove that, I believe, if we can, Stuart.
Moving on to Lucerne Street. So this is Sheila 206, so I've had to add it into the table so it won't be in the original Appendix 4. It was added as part of the working group in January. So it's the land at Norton Ash Garden Centre for 100 dwellings. So the healer, just to be clear, the healer finds this site unsuitable because it's isolated. However, it is a brownfield site.
Agreed.
Councillor Speed.
In the one of the spreadsheets I looked at, it was listed as greenfield. I was going to challenge that because it is a brownfield site. In the Excel spreadsheet, I think it was down as greenfield, or is it a bit mixed? Because there certainly was a garden centre there and a garden machinery business. But either way, I would suggest it's kept in.
So I'm hearing support for. So we had previously included it, but it was not in the appendix because we added it in. So we're content to leave it added in, noting that it is a brownfield site, and the document should reflect that. Councillor White.
And a note again, if we can, my belief that it's never going to get 50% of its development done for a 5-year land supply, given the planning inspectors turn it down at least once.
Pessimism is noted. Moving on, please, Stuart.
Okay, moving on to Lower House Row, Sheila 324 Home Farm for 16 dwellings. That was proposed.
No,
They were going to make that as a park home site because the landscape issues there.
We can certainly include that note. That is my memory of our discussion as well. But we have no dissent from the idea of keeping it on the list. So no, happy. Moving on then.
Moving on to Linstead, Sheila 169, the land west of the street for 61 dwellings. That was not proposed.
Happy. Leave off.
Moving on to, sorry about my pronunciation, sorry.
It's not a pirate.
It should be OR really.
Or, okay, my apologies. So that's Sheila 208, land at Colgates Road for 68 dwellings, not proposed.
Happy. Leave out.
Moving on to Upchurch then. So Sheila 306, land at Forge Lane for 20 dwellings, that was proposed.
Happy.
No, Councillor Baldock's got his hand up.
Sorry, Councillor.
I think these were the ones that I really think we need to look at reducing. We've got a huge buffer with option 4, and I just think Upchurch, given its remoteness, its country, rural nature, I think we should be not putting these in. There's one I think that should, but it would be useful to have the map up for people who can see how far away some of these are, even from the rural village of Upchurch. And this one I think would be quite a harmful one. So I would propose that we take this one out.
So we're on 306. But I suppose the question is, would people like to, because there are a number in Upchurch and it is a small village, would it be helpful to look at Upchurch in a more rounded fashion? I'll take Lisa's question first or comment.
So at the moment, sorry, Stuart, stealing your thunder and your spreadsheet, I'm going to quote the numbers. I think we're at 293. I think I've got a couple in that have been flagged to come out if we over allocate, but we haven't got that much to go. That you've already agreed that was in option 6. So if we take those, if that's what the debate now is, because we're quite close to that, right? So we've got 327 that you have agreed that we haven't got to yet, that you agreed last time, and we're at 4. So if we do that, 3.
Can we do take away? What was the gap?
That's what I'm just. So at the moment, if we've got to allocate 3,068, you're currently at 2,923.
But we were over. How have we taken them out? This is if we've moved.
Because we've taken Heisted out, which was 2,000.
So this is the running total that we're at the moment is 2,923 or thereabouts, with some in that might have come out if the Stuart might have not put them in where I have put them in at the moment.
Well, we cannot return to the invisible list, but we can note our frustration on it, but we can't go back there. Yeah. So taking Lisa's point, we are 200 or so shy, which is roughly what is proposed in Upchurch. Slightly more than that.
Can I just come in here as well, Chair? So yeah, there's still 347 dwellings on sites that were proposed back in January, but 139 of that is from one site. So yeah, you've got your cluster in Upchurch, and then there's one large site in Warden to look at.
I think it'd be useful to look at Upchurch in the round, but where we've got, I see it on there, with potential sort of self-build sites. I don't know that we've got that many self-build sites against whatever the MPPF suggests, the existing one and what the new one's likely to come down the road is suggestion we should have as a quota.
Forever testing my depth of knowledge. So in terms of the approach to self-build need, the proposals in the next NPPF don't really change. So how you identify your self-build need, it's a sub-niche of housing, so it falls into the overall housing need, but it has its own specific legislation. And that's determined by the council maintaining a register of individuals and organisations who are interested in building self-build within the local authority area. So at the moment, my memory's not exactly correct on this, but I think we had just over 114 plots on our need for plots on our register. We haven't had a huge amount of planning applications come in, and a couple of them have been refused because they're largely in rural areas, so unsustainable locations. So we haven't granted many either. So we're falling considerably short against that just over 114 target. I think one of the things that are contentious at planning application stages is that there is part of the legislation for self-build. There's a duty on local authorities to provide sufficient land to meet the need of the need for plots on the register. So we are falling considerably short of that. The Reg 18 just gone out now, the conversation that's just ended, had a self-build policy in there, which was looking at encouraging windfall self-build sites. But we do need to think maybe whether or not we want to request some of our allocations to have a self-build element or an allocation for self-build. So it's something that we need to consider once we have our suite of sites and start looking at.
That is very helpful. It will indicate that we might need to think about keeping that particular site within Upchurch, because that's the first one I've seen on the list, really, I think, with potential self-build against it. To keep that, to give us some buffer against the things that Stuart's just discussed.
I've got noted, Councillor Bullock. My proposal is that we, in order to stay on track, and though I'm going to encourage Lisa to do live maths, which we know is not to be accepted. But if we jump and do Warden, we then have discussed the Warden allocation and the bobbing allocations. We can return to Upchurch and do that in the round. With certainty about what numbers we are aiming at, if the committee consents to that brief deviation from the hierarchy allocation.
I don't want to steal Stuart's thunder. So if he wants to, I don't want to steal your thunder.
Where we're at in the numbers, I have got a running tally. So I actually have it.
I've put some in that we were going to potentially return to. I've highlighted them.
So we are just under 300 short.
So no, we'll do. Yeah, Councillor Bullock.
So, how many did we under option 4? How many did we have allocated for Highstead? 2,000, and we have now added 2,500 in for bobbing.
We've removed 2,000 from Favish.
So what, we've just a random 1,500 that weren't allocated.
They were the option 6, the other strategic site. Yeah. So that's why. So we are aiming at a lower number of non-strategic houses, but we are doing so without the 2,000 Highstead contributed in our previous maths. That remains our problem. So if we're content, I think the village jumping is the best approach to the maths. So by my reading, that takes us to Sheila 321, land west of Warden.
That's correct. And that was for 139 dwellings, and that was proposed.
Any dissent from keeping that in? No, leave it in. We're going to come back to Upchurch.
Right, that's why I had something for Upchurch. Right.
Bobbing.
And then just looking at bobbing quickly, we've got the couple of strategic sites there, so they weren't proposed at the last meeting.
Well, Sheila 12 is either of them are effectively the strategic sites for 4, so then they're not relevant to this part of the discussion. So we are returning then to Upchurch in the round and asking for a live maths update.
$3042, but I've got the 26 in from Lower Hartlip Road, land west of, and
Did we take that one out?
no, you were going to take it out if you had enough for and 52 for Amethyst Horticulture. I think there's one more, isn't there? I take those. My spreadsheet's too small.
What's your running total?
Yeah, Stuart's got has done it accurately. I put them in. Was
I've
going
got
to
it
take
at
them out.
2,924, so that would be, hold on, what's 68?
160-ish.
Yeah, 160, yeah.
So we remain 160 short with the allocations Lisa's discussing removed, so Amethyst, Lower Hearts. So
Sorry, how many have we currently got allocated for Upchurch? We didn't allocate every site, did we?
It's two, from the choices from the last meeting, it's 208 in Upchurch.
So we could remove 60.
correct. I mean, we're cutting it very fine there. So which of just remind us, Stuart, which ones we previously agreed in Upchurch, and then we can discuss those individually.
Yeah, so Sheila 306 land at Forge Lane for 20 dwellings was proposed. Sheila 308 land south of Forge Lane for 84 dwellings was proposed. Land adjacent to Oak Lane, Sheila 310 for 40 dwellings was proposed. And then Sheila 312, land off Chafes Lane for 14 dwellings was proposed. And then the last one was Sheila 319, land at Longfield for 50 dwellings, and that was proposed.
So where's this Longfield? Was that 317?
319.
Right. So
Any
317 wasn't.
no, not included. So any of those that people particularly have a strong view of, noting that we can't really remove more than 40.
Can I just check? We didn't agree 334, 353, or 420 then.
That's correct. Yes.
Tallies with my maths, correct.
My
Councillor
only,
Whiting.
my only comment, Chair, is knowing Chafes Lane, putting that many houses down a narrow country lane is going to be very, very difficult.
Yeah.
But we need to keep 140 of these regardless, just to be on the cusp, don't we?
Correct.
But we all know we don't because this is ridiculous. Okay, well, I'll propose that we move 310 as it's 40.
So land adjacent to Oak Lane, Chafes Lane, 40 houses there. I've got a proposal to remove that.
It says it's a Site B, doesn't it? How does that link in with Site A, Stuart? Do we know?
I think it can only come forward if Site A is developed.
On the screen now. Yeah.
We didn't previously approve.
Might well do.
Yeah, it does say in the Heller summary there, vehicle access needs to be improved or provided through Sheila 317.
Which we've taken out.
Well, not included, yeah.
Included.
So
Can I propose we take that one out?
that's seconding Councillor Baldock's proposal. 310 is on the table to be removed. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Which is 40, and we are therefore consent that we are retaining 306, 308, 312, and 319 as our other Upchurch allocations. Any dissent from that views? I think we've made clear that none of us are loving the process, Councillor Baldock. We are where we are on the maths. Is there any difference of opinion, and do we need to do anything different now, noting we've got some live maths going on? Councillor Bonney.
Can we just recap which ones we think are these invisible numbers? So we reckon there's 650 at Skockles. What were the other ones that were mentioned that we didn't realise had got planning permission that were on that list? Yes, obviously.
Well, that's the strategic site, so not relevant to this.
Yeah.
But there
was one in Newington.
One in Newington of about 50, yeah.
50. So that's 700.
These are all on the invisible list, so they can't account for this number.
Yes, but this goes with the explanatory note.
But
So-
isn't the invisible list, Stuart, from what you were saying?
But it's a two-sided process. So you have these consents, but you also have completions going on alongside it.
Yeah.
So it's not just you're going to have a whole work of completion come out on. You always have to factor in all the completions as well. So
Yeah.
the only way to know the completions is to go out and do all the physical site surveys. So we can't get a robust figure until we've done
Councillor Baldock.
Sorry, on time frame for that monitoring, could you just repeat what you said the timing is for the delivery of that monitoring?
So I don't have the exact figure, but normally we have some in the region of about 200 sites that we have to go out and physically survey to determine what status they are. Firstly, whether they're not started, secondly, whether they're under construction, or whether there's completed dwellings on the site. The site surveys in terms of completions is the most robust way to work out what has been completed during the monitoring year. So it's a critical thing that needs to be carried out. And as I said, there's on average over 200 sites to go out and view of a variety of sizes, and it does take a team of officers and technical support officers to carry that out over a period of time, and all the data that's then captured then needs to be ratified and double checked. So it is quite a long process, unfortunately.
But yeah, what is the time frame for actually doing the calculation? That's what I'm saying. When will it be done?
We normally start the surveys in April, and they go on through to mid-May, and then it takes about 2 to 4 weeks then to confirm the data, and then we can start looking at rough kind of numbers at that point. So unfortunately it would be after the Reg 19 has reached its drafting stage. Got to remember as well, as alongside all our kind of normal work processes, we are having to process the Reg 18 consultation that's just closed as well, to identify if there's any changes to the DM policies, or if there's any showstoppers and so forth, and if there are any new sites. So we are going through quite an intense workload at the moment, which is going to slow other processes that we've done in previous years up somewhat.
Yeah,
Thank you. Noting.
Yeah, I'm just conscious that we're aware the planning inspector is going to be delivering her report to the Secretary of State no earlier than June. So it will be some time after. So I'm just interested for the timing of that, because she will probably, and so will Secretary of State, look at that and take it into account.
Noted. Lisa, then Councillor Bullock.
Yeah, so the invisible list, it's not,
Yes.
that is forever be known. Are there likely some numbers to drop out that will compensate for that? That's why the completion stuff.
That's
yeah,
exactly
and
my
that's
point.
exactly
we can't
that.
categorically say these are additional sites, because we need to know what the completions are, and the only way to identify the completions is to carry out the physical site surveys, which takes time.
And can it be that things have dropped off, that we were on the consents or the this stage however many years ago and have just not been built out, and so then they just don't exist?
That's correct. So there is another discount there, non-implemented sites again, which we can only identify through the physical site surveys. The numbers tend to be considerably lower than completions, but they do have a small factor to play in the discounts.
Thank you all. Councillor Bullock.
So the bottom line is, you look at your completions. That's an ongoing factor. You can still expect that they will be completed. They may be completing slower than we would like. We still have the fact that we have permissions that will be delivered within the 20-year period of the plan that are probably going to number around 1,000. We can take away a few for dropped out things. There'll be a tiny amount. But the bottom line is we are looking at least 500, probably 800, maybe as many as 1,000, towards the number that we are trying to reach. And we can go into a Reg 19 knowing that, and that they will come forward. This is not, we do not want to be over allocating and then getting these extra houses imposed upon on top of that. We need to be very aware. So when we're saying, we can only drop 40 from Upchurch because we're meeting a target, we've got to remember that that exceeds what we need by around 600.
We've noted that view. That is not what the inspector will tell us, and we have a different challenge to deal with that. But to kind of draw us to a close today, we've done another sterling piece of work, which has created, hopefully, a cross-party, all working group amendment that has a tailored set of sites to strategic objective 4. So when we come to full council, I will work with the officers to make sure this is issued as quickly as possible to all members, and presumably, I will propose it. I suppose that probably makes the most sense, but it's an amendment. So any of us can propose the amendment. I'm just saying I'm happy to. It doesn't need to be me at all. It can be. Presumably, I'll have to second the motion from PNR. Yeah.
So any member can propose any amendment. This is an amendment that could be proposed by anybody and seconded by anybody. As we explained, there was a discussion with a few people earlier. We hopefully Madam Mayor will agree to take the two parts of the recommendation separately. So if we get any amendments on the first part, it can determine that people can withdraw an amendment or change it. What we also agreed kind of for transparency with the members online is that I would talk to the proposer, if they contact me, of the amendment and Madam Mayor to see if we can get the amendment to any amendment to members early so members can have time. And also we agreed that Stuart would provide an explanation around the invisible list, the numbers game, which can also go to members so they have a full understanding at full council. That will just be a briefing that will go to members. It won't go with any amendment because we will provide that and members provide the amendment.
Understood. The numbers note will be very important. Councillor Whiting.
Just to be clear, then, so the amendment I imagine you will propose will be this amended list, Appendix 1.
Yeah.
As we've appended.
Yeah.
Let's call it Appendix 2 for the sake of argument.
Yeah.
But this is Appendix 2 now, we've just agreed. And that's the thing you'll be promoting and or presenting as an amendment. And that it's the paperwork that sits behind that is the stuff that needs, because the chairman could just share his amendment with members without anybody's permission because it's his amendment. But he's relying on the report that backs it up, and it's that bit that we need to ensure that is shared. Yeah.
So if we are all content, and thank you very much for indulging us till 10:30 on another mammoth run through of that list. Thank you all very much indeed, and I shall close the informal meeting at 10:34 p.m. Thank you. Have a nice evening.